All right.
Okay, so we went through the process of trying to figure out where all those points were laid out. One of the things you can do to be aware is you can actually navigate to where the points are at. And in this case, we did the 2017 surveys. And when we open up our folder, which is 112-2017 garage roof, inside there, once we had done the conversion process, those logs that we originally had, they were converted, and we ended up with a waypoint ephemeris and a waypoint raw GNS. And so we can actually use those to get the raw waypoints. So if I click on the one that has the really fancy icon, kind of a gold colored icon, it actually pulls up this GPB viewer.
Okay.
And in there is the position and time, and this has not yet been corrected with air data. But at least then you can see what your lat and long generally are. So if you need to then look for it somewhere on like a map program like Google Maps or Earth, you could do that and get a sense of which point you're talking about without having to process the whole thing. Now I can't cut and paste from here, but what I can do is I can output to an ASCII file, which is basically just a text file. You may have to rename the text file to be able to get it to look at it. So heads up, that's a process.
Yeah, you had to rename it, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so let's go ahead and go back to post-processing. We've gone through the list of all the points we have. We know now where they generally are. What's next?
Okay, select raw GNSS files.
Okay, so first I'm doing a new project, right?
Yep.
Okay, so I'm going back to File, New Project, Project Wizard, start that up. First thing I want to do is create the project.
Okay.
So I want to give it the name. So based on the cross-reference list, we'll start naming them. So I'm going to navigate to the folder I want to store all this. So I'm going to go back to 2017, 0112, 2017 garage roof. There we are. Okay, and what do you want to name the first point?
Okay, so you're saying that a project is a point?
Yeah, so when essentially the project name is going to be the point name. And if we keep that convention, then when we go through this whole process, at the end it's going to output a report, and that report will be named the point.
So each point has a project name.
Each point's name should be the project name.
Okay.
Yeah, that's how it's set up.
All right.
Yeah, okay. So you made the list of surveyed points against the names you want to give them.
Right.
And so
that name, that entire name becomes a project.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. So what's the first point you want to process?
Okay. BD1.
BD1. Okay. So Bravo Delta 1. Is there a dash or does it matter?
Did he put a dash in there?
Okay. When I look here, it looks like the repository was already primed and he did not use dashes.
Okay.
All right. So we'll call it BD1. So I'll save that. So here it tells me on C, the desktop, 2017, garage roof, BD1 config. Okay, so next. Now, the GNS, choose the file that's appropriate for that point. So we go to our list, and which file log number was it? According to our list.
156.
156, so a bunch of gibberish, underscore 156, that's what I want.
Okay.
And specifically, I want the waypoint raw GNSS file. GNS data. Okay. So I say open. So now it associates that file with the project name we gave it, which is also going to be the point name. We go next. Now it asks me for information about my antenna, the antenna that I used. Okay, the antenna. Has a label, and on the label is a specific model name, and I need to know that model name.
Okay.
Okay? The other thing that the antenna does is it identifies where the antenna reference plane, the ARP, is located. And this plane is right along the bottom on this mechanical diagram.
Yep.
And if you look at that, that actually indicates that the bottom face of this boss right here is the antenna reference plane.
Okay.
Okay. So what we need to do is we need to have two pieces of information. We need to know what the model number of the antenna is, and we need to know how far the antenna reference plane was from the ground in meters.
Okay.
Okay. Now, it so happens that when we did this, I worked with Yanni, and here's how he set everything up. He took this pin out of this tripod, rather than using the whole tripod. He took this pin out. And he just used some construction tape to actually make this work.
I was just thinking like a flight.
So he took this construction tape, put the pin in, okay?
Okay.
And when he screwed this into the antenna, and set this down on the ground,
Okay.
he marked where the reference plane is.
That's
Okay.
true.
And if you look at that, he marked on there, it's 72 millimeters from the ground.
Okay.
Now, this little hook was not on there at the time we took that off, so it sat flush.
Why didn't we just do it with the method you used last time? Just putting it right into the tape roll. Why all that extra hardware?
Well, because there's a couple of reasons. The first and foremost is by doing that, we lifted this off the ground, which gave us better access to be able to connect the antenna.
Okay.
Previously, it actually bumped up against the ground and made it difficult for it to lay flat.
Okay.
Secondly, the way I did it before, I was then going to have to subtract
Gotcha.
the
Yeah.
thickness of this boss, and this way I can go straight to the reference plane and get a direct measurement.
Okay.
Yeah. And normally what you would do is you would have the antenna on this tripod,
Yeah.
and you would have to measure from that plane down to the ground.
Sure.
But because we had a perfectly flat surface up there we didn't have to worry about, we went ahead and used this quick and dirty method.
Okay.
Okay. So our measurement is 72 meters. Okay, so what does that mean? So here...
Millimeters, right?
Millimeters, yes.
Couldn't get a interpolator to play with
So here, the first thing it asks us for is the antenna profile,
Okay.
and there are hundreds of antennas that Novatel has built.
Okay.
And so we have to scroll down and find our particular antenna, which in this case is a GPS-102-GG.
Okay.
Okay,
rearrange the slice as it.
so I'm scrolling down here.
Yeah, I mean that's fine. It's like I guess I wouldn't care about doing that if I had this. If I had the ND matrix thing working, I would.
And here's a Nova
I guess the other thing that this makes it a little bit easier is I was gonna add
702GG,
as like a next step to this.
and then I noticed there's a GGL version 101, a GG102, and a GG103.
I'm happy.
Okay.
If I look further on the item here, it says hardware rev 103.
Okay.
So I'm looking for a Nov 102 GG underscore 103. There it is right there. And then as far as the height measurement goes, it's in meters.
Okay.
Okay. And I know it's 72, so it's 0.000 meters. So if I know my metric system, that's 0.72 meters is how many 72 millimeters is. And it asked, did I measure it to the reference plane or to the phase center of the antenna? The phase center of the antenna is somewhere inside
Buried.
here.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to say I measured it to the reference plane.
Okay.
And then I'm done. All right, now, what's the next step?
Okay. Enter antenna height. Select antenna measurement. Select appropriate antenna. Add base station data.
Okay, so I would like to add base station data, and so that's correct. So next, it asks me, do I want to add station data from a file that I already have, or do I want to download it? I
Okay.
tell the machine I want to download it. To
Okay.
do that, I must have an internet connection.
Okay.
All right, I say next. I'm going to go ahead and pick the closest station to me, which is this SUAA.
Okay.
Okay. I double click that. Download failed. All right. So I'm going to pick the next closest one to me. The next closest one is 0.221, which is 8 miles away.
Okay.
And then I should see a bunch of activity happening here, and all of the error correction data should be provided.
Okay.
If that's successful, then it's going to take me to the next step. Go to the next step. This is information about the base station's antenna, which I don't change. It just gives me that data if I need it. I go next, and so here it tells me what base station I'm using. It says it's ready to finish. So now here it shows me information about my antenna and the remote data that I collected, and here's the base station and the antenna that they used, and this is where all my error correction information is coming from. So I finish. When I finish, it gives me a raw output. What's the next step?
Okay, it says process GNSS.
Okay. So I go up here to this menu item, process.
Okay.
The first item is process GNSS. Click that. And then I want to check to make sure I have differential GNSS, both.
Okay.
Basically, these are all defaults. I don't mess with anything here. And then I click the process button. When I do that, it starts to process it, and I get a bunch of calculations that occur here.
Because like if I tried, if I flew with that 1/8 allocation to the quad.
Now notice this line turned green, which now tells me that the proper calculation of error has been made between those 2 points. This is the point that
The reference.
the reference point, and this is our point. Okay. So what's the next step?
I wanted to do this to make
Okay. It says checklist complete.
Okay.
I guess we do that all over again, right?
We do this whole process all over again for each point.
Okay.
Yeah. So there should still be an output though. Is there another page?
Output export wizard.
Okay. So we go up here to output.
Okay. Do we want to do that now or?
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. We want to go through the whole process, start to finish.
Okay.
Okay. So here's the output wizard. Is that the next thing it wants?
Yep.
Output wizard.
Export wizard.
Export wizard. Okay. So here it tells me where it's going to put it. It's going to put it in the folder we've been working on, and it's
Okay.
going to call it BD1 text. And then we use this Z project wing output. It's a set of parameters that have already been established for us by Brandon.
Okay.
Okay. And basically, I do make no changes here. I just go through and accept all the defaults.
Okay. It says ensure the process datum is WGS-84.
So next window, datum WSG84. That's correct. And then the next window, I do nothing. I make no changes. Next window, I make no changes. Next window, it tells me the GPS date, month, day, year is going to be provided. Then I finish, and then this is the end.
Okay.
So this is the product we're trying to produce. Up here, it says our project name is BD1, which is also our point name. And then it gives us information about the site that we compared our data to and collected error information from. And then down here at the bottom, it gives us our particulars about our point. And it tells us that our point is located at this latitude, this longitude, with this height above ellipsoid in meters, which identifies as negative,
Okay.
which is common around here, that we see negative points.
So does it tell you what the error was from what you originally had in there?
I'm not sure if it does or not. You have to maybe go through there and see.
Okay. I'd be curious to know what that error is,
Yeah.
because, if it's 5 inches,
Well, we have the raw, so we could compare the raw,
Yeah.
and we could do a calculation.
yeah.
Now, here's the thing. Going back now to, if we go back to the repository sheet. In the repository sheet, what we do is now we have, from this output, we have degrees, minutes, and second decimal.
Right.
Okay, and so that's why we have this tool here, degrees, minutes, seconds, decimal, so we can convert it to degrees decimal, and that's what we actually populate the table with. So we have to grab each one of those lats and longs and do that.
Sure.
Okay, and then when we pull the elevation, which is 3 significant digits, we pull that in with the 3 significant digits, and this will automatically round to two significant digits. We just pull that directly in. Okay, and then we go over here and we'll write some.
Is it rounded because we just don't have it formatted for 3 digits?
Yeah, because our systems don't use 3 digits. Our systems use 2 digits.
Oh, okay.
So we
don't
round
need the
here.
third.
We don't
Got
need
it.
the third, yeah. Now, one of the things that this will also tell us is, let's see,
But like, that's a lot of like that's.
if the information is in here. I'm looking to see.
I mean, hopefully this is like.
Yeah, so I don't see the file name that it chose to make that.
Okay.
So basically, our notes will tell us what the